What kind of person ridicules a dancer's grace in a room full of mirrors? Karen did, and it was the beginning of her unraveling. The ballet studio smelled of polished wood and sweat, a sanctuary where bodies moved like poetry. Karen, broad and unyielding, stood at the back, her arms crossed, her lips curled into a smirk. She wasn't here to learn. She was here to dominate, to make her presence a storm. The instructor, Ms. Elena, a woman with the elegance of a willow branch, glided across the floor, demonstrating a pirouette. Her movements were liquid, each step a note in a silent symphony. Karen snorted, loud enough for the room to pause. "Looks like a drunk flamingo," she muttered, her voice slicing through the quiet. The other students, Lila, a shy teenager with dreams of Juilliard, and Sarah, a single mother rediscovering her strength, froze. Their eyes darted to Elena, whose face remained serene, though a flicker of pain crossed her eyes. Karen didn't stop. "What's next? Twirling like a toddler?" she scoffed, her laughter a jagged edge. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, as if her words had sucked the grace from the space. Lila's hands clenched into fists. Sarah's jaw tightened. They'd both endured Karen's barbs for weeks, her complaints about the music, her mockery of their form, her insistence that ballet was just prancing for skinny people. But this was different. She'd attacked Elena, the heart of the class, the woman who'd turned a community center's dusty room into a haven. Elena raised a hand, calm as ever, and continued the lesson. "Focus on your center," she said, her voice steady, but Lila and Sarah exchanged a glance. Something had shifted. Karen's cruelty had crossed a line, and the room was no longer hers to command. The class moved into pairs, practicing a simple pas de deux. Karen, paired with Lila, refused to follow. "I'm not doing this fairy nonsense," she said, planting herself like a boulder. Lila, barely 16, trembled with frustration. She'd spent years battling her own insecurities, and Elena's classes had been her refuge. Karen's disdain felt like a personal theft. Sarah, watching from across the room, saw Lila's eyes glisten with unshed tears. She remembered her own struggles, years of putting her dreams on hold, scraping by to raise her son, finding courage in this studio. Karen's voice, now mocking Lila's wobbly stance, was a blade cutting too deep. "You're hopeless," Karen said, loud enough for all to hear. "Why even bother?" The words hung in the air, venomous. Elena stepped in, her voice soft but firm. "Karen, we lift each other here, not tear down." Karen rolled her eyes, undeterred. "Lift? This is a hobby for failures." The insult landed like a slap, and the room went silent. Lila's face flushed red, not from shame but from a spark of defiance. Sarah's hands shook, her protective instincts flaring. They didn't know it yet, but Karen's reign of cruelty was about to meet its match. The class continued, but the energy had changed. Karen's presence was a storm cloud, her every comment a lightning strike. She mocked Elena's gentle corrections, laughed at Sarah's careful steps, and sneered at Lila's determination. But beneath her bravado, there was something Brittly, a woman who thrived on control, who feared being unseen. Karen had joined the class on a whim, expecting to dominate as she did everywhere else. At work, she bullied colleagues into silence. At home, she demanded perfection from her family. The studio, though, was different. Here, grace wasn't forced. It was earned. And Karen, for all her bluster, had no grace to offer. As the class moved into a group routine, Elena called for a shen turn, a sequence of quick spins across the floor. Karen, refusing to try, stood to the side, her phone out, recording the others with a smirk. "This'll be hilarious on my feed," she said, zooming in on Lila's hesitant steps. That was the moment something snapped. Lila, usually quiet, stopped mid-turn. "Why do you do this?" she asked, her voice shaking but clear. Karen raised an eyebrow, surprised by the challenge. "Because it's funny," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. Sarah stepped forward, her voice low but fierce. "It's not funny. It's cruel." The room held its breath. Elena watched, her expression unreadable, as if she knew what was coming. Karen laughed, but it was hollow. She didn't see the fire in Lila's eyes or the steel in Sarah's stance. She didn't see that her throne of mockery was about to crumble. The standoff in the studio wasn't just a moment, it was a spark. Karen's laughter faded, her smirk faltering as Lila and Sarah stood united. Their eyes locked on her. The mirrors reflected their resolve, amplifying the tension. Elena, ever the anchor, stepped between them, her voice calm but laced with authority. "Let's focus on the routine," she said, redirecting the energy. But the air crackled with something unspoken, a rebellion brewing. Karen shrugged, her confidence a mask, and returned to her phone, scrolling as if nothing had happened. She didn't notice Lila whispering to Sarah, or the way Sarah's lips pressed into a determined line. The class resumed, but the dynamic had shifted. Karen's barbs no longer landed unchallenged. When she muttered, "This is a waste of time," Sarah shot back, "Then leave." The words were quiet but sharp, and Karen's eyes narrowed. She wasn't used to resistance. For the first time, she felt the room's pulse beating against her. Then came the twist, a secret that upended everything. During a break, Lila lingered near the water cooler, her hands fidgeting. She'd overheard something weeks ago, something Karen didn't know she knew. At a local cafe, Karen had been bragging to a friend about sabotaging a coworker's presentation to secure a promotion. Lila, sitting unnoticed in a corner, had heard every word. Karen's glee, her lack of remorse, her pride in crushing someone weaker. It wasn't just the studio. Karen's cruelty was a pattern, a way of life. Lila shared this with Sarah, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarah's eyes widened, then hardened. "She's not just a bully here," Sarah said, her voice trembling with realization. "She's a predator." The weight of it hit them both. Karen didn't just mock. She destroyed. Lila, who'd always felt small, felt a surge of courage. Sarah, who'd fought to rebuild her life, felt a fire ignite. They didn't tell Elena, not yet, but they knew they couldn't let Karen's reign continue. The studio was their sanctuary, and they'd protect it. The class moved into the final routine, a group performance meant to showcase unity. Elena had choreographed it to celebrate resilience, each dancer weaving through the others in a delicate balance of trust. Karen, predictably, refused to participate fully, half-stepping through the moves with a sneer. "This is pointless," she said, loud enough for all to hear. Lila, her heart pounding, decided it was time. As the group formed a circle for the final sequence, she stepped closer to Karen, her voice steady despite her nerves. "You don't get to ruin this for us," she said. Karen laughed, but it was forced. "You're just a kid," she snapped. "Go cry somewhere else." Sarah joined Lila, her presence solid, unyielding. "We know what you did," Sarah said, her voice low but piercing. "Not just here, at your job. To that coworker." Karen's face paled, her smirk vanishing. The room seemed to tilt, the mirrors reflecting her sudden vulnerability. She hadn't expected the issue secrets laid bare in a place she thought she controlled. Elena, sensing the shift, paused the music. "What's going on?" she asked, her tone calm but firm. Lila hesitated, then spoke, her voice clear. "Karen bragged about ruining someone's career. She's not just mean here, she hurts people everywhere." The accusation hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Karen opened her mouth to deny it, but the truth was in her eyes, a flicker of guilt she couldn't hide. The studio, once a stage for her cruelty, was now a courtroom, and she was on trial. The confrontation was electric, the studio a crucible of truth. Karen's face twisted, her bravado crumbling under the weight of Lila's words. "You don't know anything," she spat, but her voice shook, betraying her. Sarah stepped closer, her eyes blazing. "We know enough. You don't get to walk in here and tear people down." The other students, silent until now, nodded in agreement, their quiet support a wall Karen couldn't breach. Elena, her expression unreadable, stepped forward. "Karen, This is a place of growth, she said. If you can't respect that, you don't belong here. The words were gentle but final, a verdict delivered with grace. Karen's eyes darted around, searching for an escape, but the mirrors reflected only her own defeat. She grabbed her bag, her movements jerky, and stormed toward the door. But Lila wasn't done. You should know, she called out, her voice steady now. I recorded you at the cafe. I sent it to your boss. The room gasped. Karen froze, her hand on the doorknob. The twist had landed, a hidden blade she hadn't seen coming. Her workplace cruelty, exposed in the studio, was now a legal noose tightening around her. The fallout was swift. Karen's absence from the studio was immediate, but the ripples of her actions spread. Her employer, alerted by Lila's recording, launched an investigation. The coworker Karen had sabotaged, a young woman named Mia, had been quietly suffering, her confidence shattered. The evidence gave Mia the courage to file a formal complaint, and Karen faced disciplinary action. Rumors swirled that she was demoted, her authority stripped. In the studio, the air felt lighter without her. Elena resumed classes with renewed energy, her gentle strength a beacon. But the real change was in Lila and Sarah. Lila, once timid, stood taller, her movements bolder. Sarah, who doubted her own worth, found a fierce pride in protecting their sanctuary. The studio became more than a dance class, it was a testament to resilience, to standing up against cruelty. Yet Karen's shadow lingered. A week later, a letter arrived at the community center, addressed to Elena. It was from Karen, a scrawled apology that felt more like self-preservation than remorse. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, it read. Elena read it to the class, her voice neutral. What do we do with this? She asked. Lila spoke first. It's not enough, she said. She needs to face what she did. Sarah nodded. She can't just say sorry and walk away. The class agreed Karen's words were hollow without change. They didn't want her back, not unless she proved she could respect their space. The story didn't end with Karen's humiliation, it ended with a quiet triumph. The class performed their routine at a local festival, their movements a tapestry of trust and strength. Lila's spins were fearless, Sarah's steps steady, and Elena's pride radiant. The audience, unaware of the battle fought in that studio, saw only beauty. But the dancers knew. They'd faced a bully, exposed her truths, and reclaimed their space. Karen, somewhere out there, was alone with her consequences, her mockery a fading echo. The studio, once her stage, was now a symbol of what happens when courage meets cruelty. It wasn't just about tripping her yup, it was about standing tall, together, and dancing through the pain. For Lila, it was a lesson in her own power. For Sarah, it was proof that she could protect what mattered. For Elena, it was a reminder that grace could outlast malice. And for anyone who'd ever faced a Karen, it was a story of hope, that even the loudest cruelty could be silenced by the quiet strength of those who refused to break.